Hey there, welcome to the Presidential Bobblehead Show. Back when I taught AP U.S. history, these little guys sat on my desk, and now they're back, ready to spill some historical tea. I'm talking stories, life lessons, and a few cautionary tales that will help you in your class, and maybe even in your own life. Let's jump right in and check the Rushmore Report, the presidential power rankings based on the latest Siena College Research Institute survey. Think college football rankings, but way more old white men. If Lincoln were an Avenger, he'd be Captain America. Steve Rogers is the heart of the team. He's steadfast and unshakable. The South secedes, Lincoln presses on. Generals fail, he endures. 4 years of war, Lincoln could do this all day. Both men lead through conviction, not just strategy. Lincoln held a fractured nation together. Cap holds the Avengers from tearing apart, and both are remembered for sacrifice. Lincoln's life cut short after preserving the Union, and Cap giving his again and again for the greater good. No need for a multiverse. This crossover is perfect. Honest Abe had political creativity, an imagination that tops the Rushmore Report. He could see the nation not just as it was, but as it could be. He was never static, evolving as a public figure. Early Lincoln was not openly calling for the end of slavery, but as the Civil War dragged on, he reshaped his vision for the country. First, preserving the Union at all costs, then imagining a Union that was whole and free. Before being assassinated, he even acknowledged that some Black Union veterans ought to have the right to vote. That's how you get to number one, seeing around corners and the day-to-day issues of being president to move the country in the direction you want. Now, put your hands together and welcome the 16th President of the United States, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. Mr. President, thank you so much for being here today. Since 1982, you've been in either the top 2 or 3 position. Let's look at some of your competition.
Sure. You mean the enslaver-in-chief?
Whoa, you mean George Washington? He's currently at number 4.
Number 4? Should be 44. I was the great emancipator.
Well, Mr. President, then what's standing in your way to the number 1 spot? 40 years of being so close.
Well, Travis, I think we all know who's at the top spot.
Oh, of course, the untouchable Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
I saved the Union, end slavery, write the Gettysburg Address, and I'm only number 2 again? Listen, you know what I could have done with 4 terms? I got 1 term and like 2 weeks. Thanks, John Wilkes Booth. And somehow I'm still behind Franklin Roosevelt?
Now, to be fair, he did steer us through the Great Depression and World War II.
Yeah, but with radios and airplanes. Tried doing it with a telegraph, and generals who couldn't win a game of checkers.
Whoa, that's a big hot take.
Just saying, FDR had the New Deal. I had no deal. Unless you count a train ticket to Appomattox.
You ever think that maybe historians are impressed with FDR's longevity?
Oh, sure. Give me 12 more years and see what I could have done.
Okay, fair point. Last question, Mr. President. You've done a lot, but I have to ask, why Andrew Johnson? The American people went from the second best to the second worst in just 1 year. This next segment, folks, is where we look at Lincoln's life, presidency, and decisions to see if we can find some lessons and cautionary tales for our own lives. Lesson 1. Don't hit send just because you're mad. Picture this. It's July 1863. The Union has finally stopped Robert E. Lee at Gettysburg. 3 days of brutal fighting, and Lincoln thinks this is it, the moment, the series finale of the Civil War. Lee's army is trapped. All Union General George Meade has to do is finish the job. And instead, he basically says, I'm good. Unfortunately for Lincoln, the Civil War gets renewed for another 2 seasons. Lee slips away and the war drags on, and Lincoln, he is absolutely furious. So he does what any of us would do. He writes the angriest letter of his life, and one line hits hard. He was within your easy grasp, and to have closed upon him would have ended the war. That's brutal. But here's the catch. Lincoln never sent it. He folded the letter, tucked it in a drawer, and walked away. Why? Because he knew Meade was exhausted and ripping into him could crush morale. We've all been there, right? We fired off a group text or typed a salty comment and then thought, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't end my social life today. That letter was later found with a note, never sent, never signed. And Lincoln did this often. It was his way to vent without causing damage. And in a culture where we reward the fastest hot take, Lincoln's restraint feels even radical. He let Meade keep his dignity, quietly turned to Ulysses S. Grant, and let Grant finish the job. Lincoln was not perfect, but he understood people. He knew how and when to use his words. The lesson? Don't hit send just because you're mad. Sometimes the strongest words are the ones you never say. Lesson 2. Fail upward. Maybe one of Lincoln's greatest characteristics was his ability to fail. Seriously, in our win-at-all-cost culture, we see losing as the ultimate shame, but there's so much to be learned from it. So let's run through the gauntlet of Lincoln's L's before he was elected president. He lost his first run for the Illinois state legislature. He lost his first run for Congress. He lost his bid for the U.S. Senate. He lost his run for vice president, and he lost another U.S. Senate race. Basically, he was the Buffalo Bills in the 1990s who went to the Super Bowl 4 times and lost all 4 times. But here's the thing, Lincoln failed upward. He took the sting of failure and turned it into forward momentum. He built connections. He sharpened his speaking skills. He figured out how to navigate tough political fights. And those were just the political losses. He also faced failed business ventures and multiple family tragedies. Americans love winners. They love comeback stories even more. So by the time he ran for president in 1860, Lincoln wasn't just another lawyer from Illinois. He was a battle-tested political operator who knew how to play the long game. The lesson, losing doesn't make you a loser. If you learn from it, adapt, and keep going, every loss is just practice for your eventual win. Lincoln's story proves that sometimes the road to the White House is paved with failure, and that's a lesson any student can learn from. If you fail a test, you'll probably learn the material better the second time. Every president has made mistakes, so let's look at Lincoln's biggest and see what we can learn from it. Lesson 3. Pick good group partners. In 1864, Lincoln decided to shake things up for his reelection. Instead of sticking with his Republican vice president, he chose a Southern Democrat and vehement racist, Andrew Johnson, to run on a national Union ticket. On paper, it was brilliant, a unity move to show the country that the Union was bigger than party politics. But here's the problem. Lincoln didn't make it through the start of his second term. Johnson did. It was like getting sick on the day of a big presentation and your group partner is not ready for the big leagues. Johnson had very different ideas about how to rebuild the country after the Civil War. He clashed with Congress, rolled back protections for freed slaves, and tanked Reconstruction so badly he became the first president to be impeached. The real-life takeaway? Don't just pick a partner, in politics or at work, based on how good they make you look in the moment. Pick someone who shares your values and your vision, because if you're not around, they're the one carrying your project, your team, or your legacy. And now, it's time for the Outside Evidence Wheel. This is where we spin the wheel and land on a category. TV, film, music, first ladies, the arts, or pop culture, and give you an interesting piece of outside evidence that connects back to the presidency. Here we go. Film. Okay, movie buffs, this is for you. Dozens of actors, mostly bad, have played our 16th president in motion pictures, but hands down, the best portrayal is Daniel Day-Lewis in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln from 2012. It is known as one of the most acclaimed presidential films ever made. Daniel Day-Lewis won an Oscar for his performance, staying in character as Lincoln for the entire shoot. On set, everyone addressed him as Mr. President. He spoke in Lincoln's soft, reedy voice even when the cameras weren't rolling, and he never broke character. Sally Field, who played Mary Todd Lincoln, said she only ever interacted with him as Lincoln, not as Daniel Day-Lewis. Spielberg himself said directing him often felt like he was actually directing Abraham Lincoln. Liam Neeson was originally considered for the part, but I guess he lacked a certain set of skills. That total immersion gave audiences a president who didn't feel like an actor in costume, but like the real Lincoln stepping out of the history books. Daniel Day-Lewis didn't just play Lincoln, he became Lincoln. All right, that's all we have time for today, folks. Be sure to like and subscribe down below and let us know in the comments which president you'd like to see next on the Presidential Bobblehead Show. We might just put your pick on the desk. If you want to learn more about one of the best American presidents or even some really bad ones, check out UWorld's exam prep content for all your AP courses.